Welcome to Finding Certainty with your host and U.S. Army veteran, Patrick Laing. Over the next hour, you'll learn from Patrick and his expert guests how to attract more certainty into your business and your life. Now, here is your host, Patrick Laing.
Welcome to Finding Certainty. This is my favorite day of the week. I get to meet with extraordinary guests and hear their stories and share them with you, the listening audience. And you know, over the last couple of years, as we've been doing this show, we've met a wide variety of people, from entrepreneurs to athletes to artists and scientists and speakers, and the list goes on, right? And one of my favorite things about meeting with these various guests and being able to interview them for you is hearing their stories. I hear often that it's kind of like a stroll down memory lane because they talk about things they haven't talked about or thought about in a while. Well, today we have a very special guest to me. He's a good friend of mine. He's a partner in our company, Certainty Management. I'm one of the senior partners. And he's also an extraordinary athlete. We're going to be talking about this craze that's sweeping not just the United States, but the world, otherwise known as pickleball. Brian is actually a national pickleball champion. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's all the hoopla about, Brian? What is it that's turning so many heads and so forth? Because, and I always start the show out by sharing two reasons specifically why I've asked this guest to join us. First and foremost is I'm curious about pickleball. I've played it once or twice. I can't remember the rules, but it's something I think I'd really enjoy getting into. It is incredibly popular today. They're pulling out tennis courts and putting in pickleball courts. They're pulling out playgrounds and putting in pickleball courts. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And I want to understand why that is. We'll talk a little bit about that. Secondly, Brian is a very successful entrepreneur. He's a lender. He owns a company named Simplicity Capital Finance. He is an advocate for nonprofits. He's done a lot in the tennis and pickleball space. And the list goes on and on and on. And so I also wanted to address a little bit of how is it that we find balance in our lives? How is it that we find a little bit of quality of life in and around the craziness of life? Because I think Brian's a good example of that. He works very hard, but he also plays hard. So, Brian, thanks for being here, my friend.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. The pickleball is just, it's funny. When I started playing it, I come from a tennis background. I play some padel. It's a new sport getting very popular here. It's big in the Spain and South America. But what's interesting is a lot of tennis players have convert. It's smaller court. I think it's a little easier on our bodies overall. And the points last for a long time because of that. And so even though your maybe court's shorter, you're getting a lot of steps in, you're getting a lot of reflexes in, your heart rate's going up and down, and then you're getting a lot of interaction with it, which is just very popular with the, it started with kind of an older person sport, let's say it that way, and almost 50 and overs at the time.
Yeah.
But now I was just at the club this morning, just went over there, and I was helping my wife out. She's playing tennis. But anyway, they have, 3 kids homeschooling and training to be pro pickleball players, doing it all day. So that's things that's happened in tennis. So that's all new to pickleball as of now. And a lot of those kids have come from tennis, and they're going for that because they have this next generation, they call it, in the APP circuit for kids coming up to try to make the pro rank. So it's from top to bottom. It's a craze.
Well, it's really intriguing to me because everywhere I turn, there are people that play every single day. That's what they really look forward to. That's where they're getting their exercise. I met a guy the other day who said, I've lost 45 pounds and all I did was start playing pickleball. Right. And that's my kind of exercise. I've always said, if I'm not bouncing a ball or kicking a ball or something, I don't really want to do any. I don't really enjoy exercise. I don't enjoy riding a stationary bike or jogging or something. I want to be doing something. And so that's intriguing.
I agree with that. I like I like to do things as well. And then if I throw the competitive element into it, that's when I'll hit the gym or whatever I need to do to get in better shape for whether it's quicker, more agility, or at my age now, it's more make sure my knees don't hurt as bad after the fact.
Right.
So you go I'm after sooner playing enough. So, more maintenance now versus training to become more athletic at my age. But when you're a youngster, you're training, they're doing the ladders, they're doing all the things that you do for the, your dynamic stretching when you're coming out to the courts, and then they're hitting the gym in between so they can develop. But it's so the competitive part gives you the incentive to do the off-course things. That's how I've always stated it. Not just to go do the stationary bike or the elliptical every day for 2 hours.
Right. 100%. So let's go back a little bit and get to know who is Brian Poynter, because before our first break here, I always like to hear a little bit of your story. I mean, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And how did you get into this whole tennis pickleball world? Because you've been in it for a long time now. But how did it start?
I grew up in a small town, believe it or not, outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, about 35, 40 miles. And when I lived in Houston, that's a suburb that you drive to. So back when I grew up, it seemed like a long ways, but it's just technically a suburb of big cities these days. And so I was in a small area, and I played baseball. My dad was good; he got me feeling that. And obviously, I played basketball, and just about anything I could sport the ball. Soccer didn't exist as a popular sport where I was at that time. So I played all the other sports. And then there was, I took some tennis lessons at this park and rec, and I got really kind of hooked on it. And I was kind of had hand-eye coordination, so I won our little tournament, so I thought I was good. Then the next time I played, all of a sudden this kid came to town, and his dad was a professor at Wabash, where I was at, and he beats me 0-0. I'm like, well, how's that happen? And of course his dad was a tennis pro, and so he started teaching us, and then he started teaching. He worked with me galore. I mean, tons. Lee Marshall was his name. He's no longer with us, but Cameron is his son, and to the point where he treated me like one of his kids, because he needed somebody in that community to really compete with his son, so he could have somebody to play. So that's how I got good and up to age 13, and then he left and moved from that college to another place, and went to Memphis to be actually a tennis pro, and went back in the country club business for being a professor. And so by then I was hooked in tennis. And so I just went over to Indianapolis and trained with all my kind of peers and friends that I knew. And so as I was pretty good in high school, I got to play with a lot of the Wabash College players, obviously not during their practice, but the outside of it, and a lot of them would play with me. And so that's really how I played. And then I went to college and at the University of Evansville, and I played there. I played one singles and doubles my last 2 years, or junior year, and split 1 and 2 my senior year with my Petrie, my English doubles partner. And so that's kind of the status. And then I was in tennis for a lot of years. I've been in other businesses, but we were one of the first to do a boarding academy with online schooling before it was just kind of. Before it was cool, I guess, so to speak, or accepted. And we did that in Houston, North Houston, back in the early 2000s. And I'd already been in tennis in multiple areas. I've been in the nonprofit with Zena Garrison's Foundation in Houston, and we'd give like free tennis lessons and mentoring and tutoring and all kinds of things we would do with the students throughout the inner city of Houston, and we'd touch about 1,500 kids' lives per year. So part of my job was fundraising back then. So I would meet with a lot of the socialites of Houston and a lot of the lady tennis players that liked tennis, and then had obviously connections. And we did a lot of fundraisers at River Oaks Country Club, which is one of the kind of premier country clubs of Houston. And from there, I went into the competitive side of it. And that's when I was up north a little later. And then back to the competitive that I was at, with the kids in the early 2000s. We probably had, 10 different kids hit number 1 in the nation. So, for a period of about 5 years, we were traveling the world with them. So it was an experience.
Oh, yeah. That's impressive. 10 of the top number 1 players. That's nothing to sneeze at.
It did Yeah, because yeah, I mean, it could be a girl's 18, and then another girl's 18. It could be a girl's 16, girl's 14, and a boy's 14. You get what I'm after. So it's not like all the
Right.
same group, but they all hit it, and then we had a bunch of them that were top 100 in the world. There's one as high as 25 in the world with that group. And anyway, so that's my background with the tennis world. So I was always around some pretty good players. When I was at Zenith, she was on the tour. She was
amazing.
4 in the world, or as high as one. And so I would train with her, work her out, and then when I was with the players, I'd hit in and work out with those kids who are very good. So kind of kept it going in tennis. And then I got into management and some other businesses. And so I really hadn't played much tennis in a long time, but I got into this padel, and I played that in the test sport for the Pan American Games. And it's a fast sport off the wall. And so I've been active with racket paddle sports, so I always enjoyed it. And then about 10 years ago, I started playing this pickleball thing, and it was just addictive. So it was like we couldn't stop playing. We kept playing. Guy that's a real good friend of mine, Althoff, Richard, he's winning all the what we call senior pros or champion pros right now, because he's just second year into that age group. I age out of that, or I can still play it, but I age into another group that's super seniors, or they call it the masters in this as of next year. So I'm looking for the young year next year. It'd be great. But Althoff and I, we played, and we were having great success playing together, playing tournaments. Then all of a sudden we started drilling and working at it like we did tennis, and we both got a lot better. And he's continued to do that more than I have. I work and I like to play, and I probably need to do more of the drilling today, but it's fun. Goes back to the work part.
He was your partner, right, when you won the national championship, doubles championship, right?
No, actually, it was Dave Weinbach, who's
okay.
Althoff, and Dave Weinbach. Althoff wasn't in our age group at that point, but Dave and Althoff just won the U.S. Open this last month, or in April, here at the U.S. Open. So they just won that together. I filled in for somebody that got hurt, and I played with Dave, and he's known as the Badger. He's won a lot, so he carried me. But that's all right. I had to hold up my end because I was the person they were obviously going after. So that's I just had to hold up my area. But Dave did well, and we that was out at Indian Wells. So that's fun. We played in front of about 6,000 people at the Indian Wells, and it's a night match, and so it's pretty electrifying, and have great memories with it. And so anyway, it was one time hit for me, but I will say I enjoyed all of it. So it was fun.
I bet you did. I've never played a sport at that level. I did play basketball in college, played for the Army. I've experienced the rush that comes from competition and from winning and so forth, but never on that high of a level. It's got to be electrifying. I mean, you talk about that adrenaline rush, just the energy. It's almost, I think electrifying is a good word for it, because it's almost electric when you're in a stadium like that. I know what it's like being a spectator, but I can't even imagine what it's like being a participant.
Right. Well, it was like when I played that, I was like, I was new and on the court. How are you going to be able to kind of keep your composure, handle the pressure? But the key was it was maybe the first time I was on that stage at that level in pickleball, but I've been on other stages in other sports, so I was used to crowds and people things. So it's really how you handle that moment. Some people go, "Uh-oh, I got all these people here watch me," and or you have it where you just kind of have everybody blocked out. It's all background noise. And it's like shooting a free throw in front of
thousands of people
screaming fans, which I did in high school. Probably not that, a few hundred, but they were screaming. You block it out. If you and in coaching with that, you help because you help students get through that, coaching them mentally. And so it's a process. So when you're helping them, you should remember some of the techniques of how to move on to the next point, how to kind of check out on. So it's all good.
Well, and you hit on a good point. You talk about drilling them and helping them prepare mentally, because it's not just physical. I mean, it's physical is only half the battle. You've got to be in shape. You've got to have done the drills, have the eye-hand coordination, and so forth. But if you can't handle the pressure from a mental standpoint, I think you're going to run into trouble. And that applies in a lot of areas in life, right? We're talking sports, but it applies in business. It applies in marriage. It applies in parenting. And maybe we can talk about that when we come back from break, because I think it's a really important piece of developing more certainty in our lives is the ability to develop greater mental toughness and flexibility. Would you agree?
100%. And we could have a great discussion on the crossover from sports to just general life and business life as well. Yeah. So,
what's your favorite thing about pickleball? In the last minute or two here before our break, if you had to pick one thing off the top of your head, what is it?
I think it's when we get into I call them the shootouts, the reflexes. You think you're setting it up, and then all of a sudden you just getting into the reflexes and seeing who's going to win. And that's the area I like. So I have fun with that.
Yeah. It becomes almost instinctual, doesn't it? So you're not thinking about what you're doing. It's just automatic muscle memory.
Yeah, you're reflexing. Everybody's getting so good at it now. You got to reflex and hit the ball to targets, hit spots, because it's coming back. And, I've noticed that even in the last few years, there's just more people that have practiced and played and trained to a high level, and you can turn around and it's reflexes is one, but it's reflex hitting targets, hitting spots, knowing where they're at, where their ball's going. So all that's fun, and the biggest thing is really staying focused on the kind of the ball, making sure you're not watching your partner or anything, because then all of a sudden you get out of you're not tracking the ball the right way, and it can be dangerous because we got people hitting the ball. We're all playing with these carbon paddles, and the ball's popping a lot quicker than it was 5 years ago. Technology, hitting the ball harder, so it was pretty good. So, but anyway, that's the fun part. But I really like to just even from the competitive side. It's kind of interesting because you're always kind of in there because you're always scoring. Traditional pickleball, you're scoring when you're serving, so you can have a game go for a while and really not move much in the score. So you got to be tough to say, all right, let's stop, and then you go try to score again. If you don't, it goes back to the mental skills and saying, all right, let's make sure we get another stop, because you kind of have the advantage as the returner because you're coming in first, and the server has to stay back, and then they got to hit the third shot and then try to get in. So you have a little advantage there. So that's probably the biggest thing. It's really just kind of the mindset, how you kind of handle the ups and downs. And pickleball's different in tennis in that way, because you can be up 8-1, and then all of a sudden they can go on a run, and all of a sudden you're at 9-8. Or if you're at 5-1 in tennis, you're probably going to hold serve in the next couple of games, because it's hard to break.
Right.
So,
Well, we are visiting with
Brian. Big league in tennis is a little bigger.
Yeah, we're up against our first break, but we're visiting with Brian Poynter. He's a national pickleball champion. He's an entrepreneur and just an extraordinary individual. He does a lot of work for nonprofits. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about this muscle memory concept and mental toughness, because I think it applies in so many areas of our lives. So don't go away. We'll be right back here on Finding Certainty.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, TEAM, like Mary.com.
Have you become a member yet? Sign up now to become a member of Voice America. It's always free and easy. Plus, you get to take advantage of some great member benefits. Get unlimited access to millions of hours of on-demand content across all of our channels. Keep track of your favorite episodes, shows, and hosts in your own customizable library. Find out what shows you might be interested in based on your favorites. Plus, you get insider access with our newsletter. Membership gives you more. Sign up at voiceamerica.com and click register at the top right.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at certaintyteam.com. That's certainty, T-E-A-M, like Mary.com.
When it comes to business, you'll find the experts here. Voice America Business Network.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
We're back. Visiting with Brian Poynter, who's a successful entrepreneur and nonprofit advocate, philanthropist, and a professional pickleball player. He's been you don't play. Do you still play professionally, Brian? Do you still compete, actually, or are you mostly just doing it for recreation these days?
Been doing more recreation the last couple of years. I played probably 4 tournaments in the last 2.5 years. I am looking to play some next year because it's the next age group. It starts at, I turned 60 that year. So that's the next group into what they call I think they call it the champions group now on the pro side. So anyway, looking forward to reuniting with some of the guys I played 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Right.
And I'll probably play a little bit more next year.
That's funny because I never thought about that. But if you're the youngest in an age bracket versus the oldest, you have a definite advantage. So you're going to go in and beat up on those old guys, huh, Brian? Is that the plan?
I don't know. I mean, at least I won't have the young guys beating up on me. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. So real quick before I forget, do you mind just sharing in 60 seconds the rules of pickleball? Somebody who's listening wants to get into it. What's the general format? I think there's people out there who don't even know what pickleball is. I mean, what's the difference between pickleball and tennis, and what are the rules, if you don't mind sharing?
You serve underhanded, so you don't serve overhanded. And you obviously hit the service box kind of like tennis. You only get one serve. On serving rotations outside of the start gets one serve, and outside of that, you get 2 serves. So if I play a point and I lose it, and you're my partner, Patrick, you get to serve the next point. And then when we lose your serve, it goes over to the other team. And you can only score when you're serving. It's kind of like old school volleyball.
Kind of like volleyball.
Volleyball in the old days. They score every time now. And they have a format they call MLP, and you score and you stay on the same side, and every point counts. So they do a little everything. But most of the tournaments are the traditional way. And then it's called the no volley zone, but it's called the kitchen line. It's kind of what everybody's called it for years. And it's about 6 feet from the net, 6 or 7, and you can't go inside that area and hit a ball out of the air. It has to bounce. Okay. You got to be behind that line to hit it out of the air. If it bounces in there, you can go in there and hit it, of course, but then you got to get out, because if they hit you in there, then you're in the kitchen. So that's kind of the key. That's where we call the third shot. That's like when you serve, they return, they come in, then the return team's back. So you got to hit the ball, and you can either drive it or you try to get it down into the kitchen and run in and be neutral at the kitchen line, and then people dink for a while and try to work the point to set it up for the reflexes or the whatever you want to call it, the shootout, the crossfire, and everybody starts smacking the ball at each other. And that's pretty much it. And so you played 11, win by 2, 2 out of 3 games. And, so you just got to always be on the right side because you switch. And that's probably the biggest rule that's confusing and competitive is like if I start on the left side, every time I'm on that side, our score should be even. It's an even number. So if I'm serving at 8-4, I should always be on the ad side if I've started on this side, the left side. And if it's, say, 7-3, I should be on the right side. That's probably the most confusing thing from the beginning, making sure you know which side you're at and keep track of the count of the score and the server and the rotations.
Well, you mentioned, like I said, I've only played pickleball once or twice, but it was really fast paced. I mean, I think of pickleball and tennis a little bit like tennis might compare to basketball and pickleball might compare to hockey, right? It just moves at a much faster pace. I don't know if that's a good comparison, but and that ball's moving. I mean, I had a Zoom with a colleague a month or so ago, and he had a big welt on his cheek. I said, "What happened, man? You look like he got punched in the face." Well, he was playing pickleball. He's a really good pickleball player, but man, he got beamed in the face with a pickleball moving who knows how many miles an hour. But I mean, that probably didn't happen too often, but I'm sure it happens, right?
Yeah, people get hit. Hopefully not too often in the face because it gets close to the eyes. But some people wear eye protective. I do not. But they, what happens is the ball moves way faster than tennis. Like you're hitting a 130 mile an hour serve. You're hitting balls. You get a bigger space. You get different things going on. In pickleball, you're just up so close to each other. And in tennis, you hit an overhit at somebody 15 feet away, either going to kill them or put it by them. Right?
Right.
It's not coming back.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And in this, people reflexing that back, resetting, and so it can get it can be dangerous if you're not. You don't want to be up there in shootouts at a level that you should be, because it could get dangerous if you're not.
Yeah. Well, and the pickleball itself,
you got the reflexes for the level you're. That's how I would say.
Yeah, the pickleball itself has holes in it, right? So it doesn't move as fast as a racquetball or a tennis ball or something. It's almost like a wiffle ball or something, right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, it's closer to a wiffle ball than a tennis ball. I mean, it's a much higher quality type of plastic, but it's a plastic. I'm sure it has some other materials in them. And they're all the different ones. Some are faster than others. I like the faster ball, which is the Dura ball, which is made by Onyx. But there's other balls out there that are playing that do pretty well as well. And some are slower. So it's just depends on what you like. I suggest if you're starting out to play with one of the slower balls because it's more favorable and it's easier to control.
Yeah, easier to get used to. Talking about getting hit in the face, we were referring a little bit earlier to the mental toughness that comes out of sports, how that the ability to have the mental acuity, that mindset is equally, if not even more important than the physical. Obviously, they're both important, but let's talk a little bit about how sports and becoming good at sports, even just playing sports, and as a kid, where you're still just learning the ropes, right? You're still not good at it at all. But how does that benefit you in your life, in so many areas of your life, in your opinion? I'm a firm believer that it does. I played a lot of sports growing up. I think it absolutely contributed. But why is that, in your opinion?
Well, in a lot of ways, I'm going to go in a couple areas. I mean, I think sports are good because it's definitely life learning skills are involved in all of them. How you handle success,
teamwork,
how you handle failure, how you get along with others, and that's the team side of team sports. We come from the background of tennis coaching a lot, and it's very individualized. So that what happens there in the individual sports like that, it's just way more stress on the individual because you can't kind of pass the ball to somebody else to take over.
Mm-hmm.
if you're not shooting the ball well, so to speak. You're hitting the next forehand, you're hitting the next backhand, and it's you winning or losing. So with that, I think there's some really tough mental skills that are hard, and it's the same thing in life. I mean, you don't think we have peaks and valleys in life, same in business. And you have something that goes well, it's great. When things aren't going as well, it's even if it's our own team or your own team, it's easier to get more negativity when things aren't going as well as when things are going great. So, how do you stay positive? How do you keep it kind of even keel? And I always like to say, you can't get too high. Like in sports, you can't get too high because you hit a winner. Because if you get really, really high up on that means when you miss one, you're going to be really, really low or hard on yourself. And so keeping that even balance, that even keel kind of Zen mode is so important in sports. And that's how when you handle that correctly, that really can transfer over to life skills, personal skills. Could be, like you say, within your own family relationships. It could be in business. And it's really trying to just understand, things are happening and it doesn't, but we don't have to kind of go way, way, way down. We need to just kind of keep a even keel. And with that, we always talk about the next point. And I think that's helped me always think of the glass is half full, not half empty type thing. There's two different ways that people look at those things. And, I always look at it like, oh, I lost that point, but I'm winning the next, or I lost that game, I plan on winning it. Just because I lost that set doesn't mean I'm losing this next set or the match,
Right.
And a great tennis player named Jimmy Connors once said he never lost a match in his whole life. And somebody said, well, that's not true. He goes, no, I just ran out of time. He never lost. He just ran out of time. So
that's funny.
Think about it.
Just yesterday, my mom just had surgery, and my dad's disabled. They're dealing with some health issues, and my wife called and spoke with us and said she was having a hard day. She deals with some chronic fatigue and stuff, but my mom said, well, it doesn't say this. It doesn't say come to say. It says come to pass. Right? It'll pass. Right? And I've always said that. Right? The most important word in sales, in my opinion, is next, right? Because if we get too caught up on or enmeshed in anything, whether it's a success or a failure, a challenge or a triumph, we're going to get stuck, right? I think water off a duck's back, rolling with the punches, keeping even keeled, just keeping moving forward is so important. In fact, just recently, for my monologue this month, actually, I talked about endurance, and I shared an example of kayaking. I used to live in Alaska, and we'd go sea kayaking. And the key to not flipping over when you're in a kayak, can you guess what it is? It's just momentum, right? If you're moving forward, a wave is not going to flip you over. If you stop, there's a very good chance it will. And I think it's a really important, speaking of, mindset and handling pressure, being even keeled, I think that's a really important reminder. Just keep moving forward.
Right. I did a little kayaking down here off of St. Pete with my daughter when she was in town. And we cruised, and there was a couple in the group that were let's put it this way, they weren't very good at it. And they were getting towed back because it got really windy. Yeah. And so people had to come back and start towing them back. It became work. At that point, it was like, I can't hang out with it. We just, and you're in the groves. And so we just started figuring out where we're going. And we didn't even make it through the paths and the main groves. It was kind of a cool trip, but we kind of had to guess our way back because I wasn't going to hang out, because otherwise you start losing ground. It's so windy. If you kind of slow down, you didn't keep your momentum, you're going backwards. It's like, this is not a time to sit around and watch the other people get towed. I'm going to keep.
Well, you touch on another important point. Mental toughness does not necessarily have to be solo. I mean, it does need to come from within. We need to work on that and develop those skills. But we have to remember that we're not alone either, right? You talk about being towed back as a kayaker, and sometimes we need a hand. When I was in Alaska, the first time I was kayaking, I got flipped over, had to pull the cover and get out. It was freezing cold water. And the guy who was with us, who was our friend and our guide, I was having a hard time getting back into the boat. He came over and held my boat steady for me so I could climb back in. And so I think it's really important when you're struggling, having a hard time, it's hard getting back on that horse. Don't forget to call a friend. Don't forget to reach out to a mentor, a loved one, someone, a networking group, right? Go give some service at a church or a nonprofit. That'll always make you feel better. Mm-hmm. But just remember that you don't have to create certainty in your life all by yourself. Rely on your tribe, as it were.
Definitely. I mean, we all do that. And I mean, we're all involved with different groups. And, just like a life group here, somebody has something going on. I had texts and everybody's kind of responding to what they're, where they're at as of today. And so, you always got to think, you're out there within your own communities, that your own network, your own support, who you surround yourself with is just one of the most important things in life. And that's why, that's why I joined Certainty, because, if, just meeting your mom and your dad, all that means something. And, when you know who you're dealing with in life and business and things like that, it's, even though, things can be, like you say, up and down, at least kind of who you're battling through all those storms with. Yeah,
100%. I mean, even with an individual sport like golf or tennis or pickleball, you have usually, especially if you want to be any good at it, you have a coach, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's paramount in our lives, not just to realize that we're not alone, but to proactively reach out for those who are better at what we're trying to do. I refer to you and when it comes to lending and finance, because you're an expert at it, right? We refer to others when it comes to digital marketing or graphic design or nonprofit, or legal. I mean, the list goes on. Remember, you're not alone, and be willing to both delegate and ask for help, and ask for help from those who've been down that road. You can shorten your learning curve. We are up against our next break, but I think this is it's a really important topic when it comes to certainty. We've talked about it more on the show. You and I talk about it a lot. Just the importance of that network, right? We're visiting with Brian Poynter. He's a very good friend of mine. He's a business partner. Really an example for me. I think a lot of people look up to you, Brian, as just one of those guys who has done really well in business and in life, but also you haven't ever let it go to your head. You're one of the most humble, down-to-earth guys that I think I've ever met, and I love that about you. So we are at our next and last break. Don't go away. We got a lot more to share with you in the last 15 minutes or so. So we'll be right back here on Finding Certainty.
Voice America is on LinkedIn. Connect with us today.
If you're a nonprofit in need of funding, we can help. Certainty Management is a cost reduction firm that also helps churches, schools, sports teams, and other nonprofits raise unlimited zero-cost funding. Best of all, you don't have to sell anything or ask for donations. Call 888-684-3122 to learn more today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
Voice America programs are now available on your favorite connected device, including Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home. Through streams with Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, listening to your favorite show is as easy as saying the show name followed by the word podcast.
Hey, Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast.
If that doesn't work, try adding on TuneIn or on iHeartRadio or on Apple Podcasts.
Certainty Management can help create more certainty in your life with our deep discount health insurance options, even for 1099s, part-time employees, volunteers, and more. Pay less to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your team. Call 888-684-3122 for a free quote today. That's 888-684-3122. Visit us on the web at CertaintyTeam.com. That's Certainty, Team, like Mary.com.
Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business.
You are listening to Finding Certainty with Patrick Laing. Have a question for Patrick or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show with Patrick.
Welcome back to Finding Certainty. If you're still with us, just want to know we appreciate it. We appreciate you spending some time with us every Friday morning. It's my favorite day of the week. I look forward to it all week. And mostly because I get to meet with people like Brian, get to do interviews and hear their stories and their insights. You know, as we planned out this show, we got a 13-week pilot. They really liked the idea of a show focused on certainty. And over the last 2 years, it's continued to evolve. I mean, first this year, as you may know, I started doing a monologue the first Friday of every month. And the plan is actually to do this weekly monologue or monthly monologue. I've talked about accountability and balance, what I call composure, discipline, endurance, kind of going through the alphabet. But I actually have a plan to use those monologues and convert them into chapters in a book on certainty eventually. By the end of this year, I'll have 12 chapters for a book. Next year, maybe we'll do a second edition with another 12 chapters. But you know, as we are talking about improving our mental toughness, our mindset, while we're also working on our health, pickleball is a great way to do that. If you've never tried it, I encourage you to go find a class. Go find a group that's playing. Start with a beginning group so you can learn the ropes and learn the rules and start to get the feel of it. What I love about it, same reason I'm trying to write this book, and I've already been in 3 different books in the last year where I contributed a chapter. A couple of them were international bestsellers. But whether you're trying to improve your health or trying to improve your branding or trying to just improve yourself, it takes a consistent, ongoing effort to do so. It's not something you can just do in spurts and then stop and let it fall by the wayside. Certainly not in sports, because you lose your edge very quickly if you're not consistently playing. For you, Brian, as you look at your career in pickleball and your career in business, other than the mental toughness, the ability to handle the pressure and the disappointments and the challenges, what other lessons or strengths or characteristics do you think have come out of that you apply in the rest of your life, in your business, your marriage, your parenting, being a granddad, et cetera, et cetera?
You know, and I'll back up into tennis because, you know, that's really what I trained throughout the younger years. I've carried that tennis skills into pickleball, at a later age. So if I kind of throw those two in together, how it's really affected me, you know, I'd say being persistent, being willing to put in the work when you needed to put in the work, because that's the only way you're going to, you know, if you're wanting to move to the next level in tennis, or if I came in as a freshman playing 5 and 6 and I wanted to play number 1, and they're going to try to recruit people better than you the following year, you have to really improve. You can't just stay the same. And to put the work in the off season, in the summers, and all that kind of those types of things. So I think the discipline is one of the biggest things. Being able to be consistent. Also understanding the journey. So when you start something, whether it's a business, you know, year 1, 2, and 3, shit is going to 2 and 3 in a business, etc. And understand the journey of it. And then when all of a sudden, if you get something that's being successful, you know, and success can be in many ways. It can be in business, can be dollars. It could be how many, you know, if you're doing education, it could be how many students you have that are Rhodes Scholars. You get what I'm after. I mean, it could be variations of success. But, you know, when you're doing something as well, then don't get complacent, and because somebody else is going to try to do something better. You know, so being able to kind of, you got to pay attention to the outside world when you got something that's good. And I think that's very true in sports because, just because you made it to the next stage, you got somebody else, whether it's on your team or your opponents, they're trying to do things to get ahead of you. And so you got to kind of always motivate yourself. And, that's what I admire. I mean, I was a Roger Federer fan in this last couple of decades, but I so admire Djokovic is his ability to keep pushing himself to the next stage. And he has won all those things with two of the other best players in the world of all time, Rafa and Roger. So watching him endure that, and be able to continue to push, continue to eat the healthiest life. I mean, he didn't put anything bad in his body, and his training, his flexibility, and to continue to do that year over 15 or 16, 18 years on the tour is amazing. Okay. Because that's
impressive.
Physical, mental, it's impressive. So, can you, another one we always talk about is you always strive for excellence. You're not always going to be playing excellent, your most excellent tennis every day or pickleball, but you strive for it. And as you keep striving for it, then you keep pushing, you get closer and closer to that. And that's just what we need to do in life. I mean, to be a better husband, to be a better grandfather. I mean, I think I'm a way better granddad than I was a dad because I seem to have more time, number one. But I mean, and I may not be because I probably just spoil them. That's probably why I think I'm better. But you enjoy the kids. You make with your time. I spoil them. After. But sometimes my son go, "Oh, all right. What do you do? You spoil her again? Okay." She gets used to having whatever she wants out of the refrigerator. But but you enjoy. I wouldn't say I'm a better, but I want to make sure I appreciate my time with them. Mm-hmm. As you get older, you appreciate your time.
Well, you hit on a good point. I think a couple minutes ago, where you said you go into it expecting it to take a while, expecting it to be a journey, right? I think people get frustrated at times when things don't happen as fast as they want them to. But when you embark on a new journey, whether it's a new career, a new relationship, a new sport, you got to put in the strokes, right? You got to put in the time. You've got to realize it's not going to happen overnight. That consistency is key. That persistence is key. Not giving up, even when you're tired, even when you're learning each other's styles in a relationship and it's frustrating. I mean, I think too often we give up, right? I heard a comment recently from a book that I've been reading. It's a really great book called Real Love by Greg Baer, Baer. Phenomenal relationship book. And he says, everything we deal with in relationships and in life, he says, we can live with it and like it. We can live with it and not like it or hate it, or we can leave. Those are the three options, right? You're going to have things about your relationship or your partner that you don't like. You can choose to leave. You can choose to be upset about it all the time, or you can choose to accept it and roll with the punches. Part of consistency and part of mental health in general is perspective, being able to put yourself in their shoes and be accommodating, be patient, realize that you're different, realize that Rome wasn't built in a day and you're bringing together two different backgrounds and styles and so forth. I think too many people, they choose the leave option and go and get divorced too quickly. Right? Obviously, divorce happens. Sometimes it's unavoidable. We've both been through it. But that consistency and that perspective and deciding, how do I want to address it? Do I live with it and choose to like it? Or maybe not like it, but just choose to accept it, right? Live with it and hate it, be frustrated all the time, or leave. Those are our three choices, and there's nothing we can do about it. All we got to do is decide which one we want to incorporate into our lives. Any thoughts on that, my friend?
I mean, it could be a very in-depth, question or comment on it, but it's very important in relationships to have balance with what you do together, but also to make sure you're aware of your partner's kind of their needs, their time, their space, and I think that's, as a younger person. I mean, I was married, I think, 21 years, and now 9. My second time around, I feel like I found somebody, we have way more commonalities with each other. So we enjoy the same things. a lot. We're both the same kind of personalities where we can both kind of go in our own space when we need to, and no one bothers each other, and then we can get along, coexist. So, yeah, I think that, but I think that's taken back from your past experiences, and it's hard to have those experiences, know those when you're 25, 26, and 8 or 30 years old in a relationship.
It's hard to have experiences until you've had experiences, right? I think it's one thing you and Kim do really well, though. I was just saying, you and Kim seem to do really well at. She goes golfing with her friends. You go play pickleball with your friends. You guys spend time together, but you also spend time apart. My wife and I have kind of figured that out. She was a little older when we got married, and so she's pretty independent. I have to go out of town for a week or two. She doesn't fall apart. I think she actually enjoys herself when I'm not there. She sounds happy when she says, "I'm just enjoying watching my own TV shows and relaxing and not having to deal with you sometimes." But Yeah,
Kim told me the other day. I'm getting ready to head up earlier because her grandkids are coming down for the beach week when school's out, and then I got things up there, so we're going to be apart a little bit. But she's like, "I got all the cooking." She goes, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And I go,
I know you miss each other, and when you get back together, you're glad you are, right? But I think that independence is healthy in a relationship.
Yeah, it is all good. So able to, like you say, take care of yourself, but also, miss each other and kind of move forward. But, it'll be it feels like a long time. It goes by, and but, we both have, things we have to go do. And there's times we're here a bunch together, and, I'm officing from home, and I play pickleball, and she goes, and we play golf together some. But, the point is we really hadn't seen that. It's not like we see each other all day anyway, because she got her friends, and I think she plays mahjong once a week, and I see them when they come to the house. But I hide in the office, right. So it's all good. So it's all good.
Well, we are up against the end of the show, Brian, and we could keep talking a lot more, I'm sure. But as I've said, you're a great example to me of somebody who just seems to be good at rolling with the punches. I think you've probably taken enough punches and hit enough balls that you have those reflexive actions. You have that muscle memory, and it does roll over into the rest of your life. I mean, you seem to be, to me, just a great example of someone who has learned those lessons, and now they're part of who you are. So I really appreciate you being here on the show, bud. I mean, we talk all the time, obviously, but been wanting to have you as a guest for a long time. You're one of the people I admire most in this world. Done a lot for our company and for me personally, and I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being here. And
hey, thanks for having me, and appreciate it. Thanks for the time, and we'll tell both of your parents hello for me. Okay,
I will. Hey, thanks for being on Finding Certainty with us this morning. I hope you enjoy your weekend. As I always say, certainty is out there. You can find it. We can help. We'd be honored to do so if we can. I wish you the very best. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next Friday.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Finding Certainty. We hope you've gained some more insight into how to create more certainty in your own business or nonprofit. Join us next week for another taste of the Certainty Experience. Until then, we wish you greater certainty in all that you do.